from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine,
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
What's up, everybody? Jared Mays here from Legends Look Back, bringing you a very special bonus episode. Thanks for being patient with us as we await the return of weekly releases of Legends Look Back. It's been a crazy summer for all four of us, but we've got some great things in store for you on the way very soon. New episodes will be returning in mid-August, so be prepared for that. In the meantime, we want to release to you something from the Utini Vault, and that is a very special one-on-one interview that I got to conduct with Star Wars author Sean Stewart at Legends Con last year. Of course, this particular Legends Con has now been rebranded to Legends Expo. They just announced that they will be returning with another convention in 2025, and we couldn't be more excited. I know, for one, that I will definitely be there. Nothing can stop me. But in the meantime, would love for you to enjoy this very special interview I got to conduct with Sean Stewart, the author of Yoda, Dark Rendezvous. Yoda Dark Rendezvous is absolutely one of the most underrated Star Wars Legends books for my money, and it recently got a re-release as part of the Essential Legends collection. It even received an unabridged audiobook read for you by none other than the amazing Jonathan Davis. So hopefully now that you've had some more time to check out this re-release of Yoda Dark Rendezvous, it's finally time to unveil our interview with Sean Stewart. Well, I'm joined here by Sean Stewart. First of all, I want to ask, Yoda Dark Rendezvous is getting a little bit more time to shine with its recent inclusion in the Essential Legends collection. So let me ask you, how do you feel about its re-release and about the fact that new fans are discovering it for the first time?
I'm really happy about that. I was delighted that they chose to include it. It's a nice vote of confidence, and there are a lot of things I like about the book. And it's my daughter's favorite of my books.
Oh, good.
So I think the whole family is excited that they brought it out again.
Wonderful. Good. Yoda Dark Rendezvous is an underrated Star Wars Legends sleeper hit. I'm sure you get that all the time. What do you think it is about your book in particular that has resonated with fans?
I think that when you write a book in which Yoda is a main character, it means it's Star Wars, so it's got to be fun, it's got to be exciting, it's got to have funny moments, but it also, at some level, with Yoda being a central character, has to touch on some of the deep stuff.
Right.
It has to grapple at some level with the problem of evil. We live in an interesting age in which some really important questions of what is right action and why do bad things happen to good people outside of church, they're addressed more in science fiction and fantasy than they are in most other parts of popular culture. So in one sense, I hope that Dark Rendezvous gives you all the fun you want from a Star Wars book, but maybe also touches on some of the deeps. I certainly know that when I was writing it, one source of real pressure for me was the knowledge that there would be some people sometime who would come to that book at a dark moment in their lives and need there to be some food, some subs for them.
Sure.
So if that plus in a long career in which I've written a lot, best fight sequences I've written, that's always worth something.
That's great. You've really touched on, I think, so much about what makes the book great. But part of that, of course, is the fact that writing for Yoda is a rarity. Legend has it, I could be wrong here, legend has it that Lucasfilm, possibly even George himself, was very tight with the reins concerning everybody's favorite little green frogman. But what, if any, kind of official overlord involvement did you have to deal with in developing the book? Because after all, Yoda is very well protected.
Interestingly, I was given almost completely free rein.
Really?
I'm of an age, I was 11 years old when Star Wars came out. So I was the perfect age. I was the guy who taped PVC tubing to a flashlight to make my own lightsaber in 1977, like that guy.
Yeah.
And for me, the Yoda of Empire Strikes Back, the energetic, weird, strange, eating stew with lizard bits in it that were still moving, fighting with the droids, like all that crankiness was a great part of what made that character colorful. And sometimes it felt like there had been a drift to just turn him into a wise old guy who said wise old guy things.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to do is get back some of the energy from the Empire era version so that you got the wisdom, but it felt like it was coming from this very particular short, shriveled-y green source.
Right.
But I will say that I cannot remember one time being told to do anything differently with the character of Yoda. In fact, I got really free rein with the book. I was told, this is when it's going to happen. And can you include a mention of X, Y, or Z?
Sure.
But other than that, I had a great experience and very little herd coming down from above. So
I'm surprised to hear that. Genuinely shocked. Speaking of Yoda, you're known for writing exceptionally good Yoda monologues.
am I? Well,
And so what was your process for getting into his little green head? It can't be easy to do. He has very particular speech pattern.
he does, but the syntax, I mean, the template laid out in Empires is very strong. You know, there's a lot to work with there in the original writing for that film and in Frank Oz's original performance. Did you know that it took 4 people to run that puppet?
Wow.
There was, Frank Oz had the mouth and the right arm. Somebody else had the left arm. Somebody else had the ears. And a 4th person did the eyes.
Wow.
So it was very complicated. And fun Yoda fact here. When they were modeling the puppet with all the wrinkledy forehead, it was based on Einstein.
Oh, right.
So,
And Stuart Freeborn, was he one of the original sculptors of Yoda? I think it's his face with Einstein.
Right.
Yeah, it is amazing. Of course, that's less important when you're just trying to get the words on the page. How did it feel writing a character that very few authors have ever been able to touch?
It was really interesting. I mean, you may have heard this story, and if you have, I apologize for repeating it. But the book was actually late from Del Rey because Del Rey just couldn't think what the plot would be or who should write it. And apparently 2 editors at Del Rey went out for lunch and sat down and said, we have to find someone. But who in the world could write a book about Yoda? And then legend has it, they looked up at one another and at the same moment said, Sean.
Wow.
And I just cannot imagine how you become to be the answer to that Jeopardy question.
Right.
Like, I read all my books. I don't know why I would be the answer to that guy, other than I guess I am kind of interested in these. I like me a good sword fight, and I also I'm interested in some of the more philosophical or even sacral questions that come up.
Sure.
The other thing you asked about writing Yoda and what the principle was. So in terms of the personality quirks, as I say, there was a lot there in the film. In terms of developing the other part of the character, it's thinking about what does it mean to take the principle of non-attachment, which the Jedi are theoretically part of, and obviously comes out of Chan Buddhism and things like that, with the kind of emotional warmth and richness that we want. And Yoda is a person who, Yoda's answer to that in some sense is that we are open to emotion as we are open to the positive ones and the negative ones. So Yoda at one point says, it's the lesser path to try not to feel. Yoda doesn't do that. Yoda loves and suffers, loves and suffers.
Right.
And he's been doing that, thinking about 800 years of joy and tragedy and the way it works on you, so that he's a fundamentally different kind of person from everywhere else, because everything all these characters have been through, Yoda has done over and over and over again. So he's the rock that the water has worn for all those centuries.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say for our audio listeners, to Mr. Stewart's credit here, he does have a particular wise aura about him. However, much taller than Yoda. Much taller. And Mr. Stewart's a very tall man. He's wearing a Yoda tie, however. Tiny Yodas. Are there 800, 900 of them?
I don't know. That would be perfect, wouldn't it?
If somebody around here would love to count them.
When you have a silk Yoda tie, it's amazing how few events really are the right one. So I was not going to miss the chance to wear it today.
Excellent. I'm glad that you did. We've talked about Yoda, but he's not the only important character that you've had the chance to give life to beyond his portrayal on the big screen. Talk us through your approach to writing Count Dooku and to making him a sympathetic character.
So when they said, what would you do for a Yoda story? By the way, it should be about here in the timeline, and it should involve this character called Count Dooku. And I thought about it for a while, and then what I pitched back to them was the Sith who came in from the cold. If the reference is a little obscure, it's a John le Carré novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Oh, okay.
And le Carré's a useful model because the great le Carré books are about trust and betrayal. So the Spy Who Came In From the Cold is about a Soviet agent who's been responsible for destroying many British agents who eventually wants to defect to England, and the maneuvering that goes on to bring him to safety, and the mixed feelings of the people who are saving a man who's destroyed their friends, who is now trying to get out of that.
Sorry. Very complex.
The idea that Dooku was once Yoda's most gifted pupil, they were close. And they're involved in a relationship where Dooku basically gets word to Yoda to say he might be interested in coming back over to the side of light. And there's a conversation between Yoda and Qui-Gon. Let's not worry about how that's possible. And basically, they both agree that it's must be a trap. And Yoda says something like, "What do you think?" And Qui-Gon says, "Well, he thinks he's lying." And that, in some senses, is the heart of the book, because Dooku thinks that this is a trick and a way of trapping Yoda, but Dooku is also aware that his relationship with Darth Sidious can only end in destruction. And there is a part of him who wants to be saved.
Sure. Yeah.
And the book sort of turns on that. Dooku is teasing that he might go to the light, but one of the people he's teasing is himself. There's a sense in which he would like to be saved from the future that he can see the path he is on. But there's a moment when they come together, and Yoda is trying to entice Dooku to come to the light. Dooku is trying to entice Yoda to come to the dark side, and then Yoda says, "Would you really like to see what happens if I come to the dark side?" And Dooku thinks about that for a long moment and says, "Absolutely not."
Right.
And realizes just how terrifying an 800-year-old Jedi Master gone wrong would be.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the really memorable moments in the book. People are always jumping in our Discord and saying something about. I'm glad that you brought it up. Well, you told a great story earlier in your panel about trying to write lightsaber combat, which was not necessarily what you had done a lot of writing for up to that point in your writing career. You said, not particularly known for action adventure stories. And you told a great story about your history with fencing informing your writing of lightsaber combat. Would you mind telling it again so I can get it on audio?
Sure. So, when I was a teenager, I was a fencer, and I got to the point where I was pretty good for someone my age. I was nationally ranked, but in a very small nation.
Sure.
Because I was growing up in Canada. And one of the things I started fencing because I loved books that had sword fighting in them.
Oh, okay. So it kind of came back around.
So it all came back around. But then once I had done a lot of fencing and other martial arts, I was like, well, this isn't exactly like it is in the movies. And so when I was trying the fight scenes, I was trying to walk a line between making something that felt fun and exciting like we want when we go to the movies or we read a book, and the reality that combat in deadly earnest between people who have different skill levels is very short, very quick, and suddenly over. To tell a slightly different story than the one I told earlier, I had a martial arts instructor who came from mainland China and who, during the Cultural Revolution, was on the run because his father had been a successful businessman, which became a very unpopular thing if you were during the Cultural Revolution. So they set a posse out for him of 10 or 12 guys. They were in the boonies. They didn't have guns, but they had, machetes and things like that. And eventually they caught up to him. Mm. And we said, oh my God, what happened? And there was a long pause. And then he said, well, if they catch me, they kill me. So I threw them down very hard. This is a guy who at that time was the Chinese university champion in martial arts.
Wow.
In a couple of different forms, including the Shuai Jiao, which is the judo, the close grappling. So however nicely that's put, one guy like that will go through a whole bunch of farmers with machetes very, very fast. And I think anyone who's done martial arts has experienced when you're dealing with someone better than you, it's over and it's over fast.
Sure.
So just trying to make those fight scenes realistic enough to take that part of it in while still being entertaining.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. Well, I'll be mindful of your time here. One last question. You famously have written only one novel in the Star Wars universe. What's another character you would have enjoyed the chance to write, and why is that?
That's such a good question. Let me think about it a minute. Sure. I think usually if you want me to write a character, if I'm getting hired for that job, it's probably because, as with Dooku, you want some interiority to a character who there might not seem an obvious way into. So I think looking for someone who's balanced in an interesting moment. I like those characters who are caught between things. I guess it's hard to. The truth is that you will know the canon far better than I do.
Sure.
You will know more parts of it and have seen more stories. But just going on the films, for instance, Padme is a little underserved. She has to be she's a character who is very often just very reactive, and she is, despite, a wonderful actress and a historically important, she's there as really the driver for Anakin's story. It would be interesting to be able to have a chance to see what the story looks like, not exactly from her point of view, but assuming that if you imagine that Anakin is the foil to develop Padme's story instead of the other way around, it would be interesting to see, picking up what is that like from her point of view would be an interesting place to go.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a great answer. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Stewart. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Thanks so much.
While I had you here, would you mind signing my book?
No,
I know that you're gonna have a signing line, but you're paired with Margaret Stackpole, and I think that's gonna be or with Miss Stover.
I think it's Stackpole.
Okay, I'm worried that line is gonna be through the roof, and I've got
but my part of it will be short.
I have quite a few folks to interview here.
Golly, I didn't even know there was a hardcover.
The hardcover was only made through the Science Fiction Book Club. And what's amazing is I live in Arkansas. I was here for Star Wars Celebration last May.
Right.
I went to a comic book store with my friend, my co-host, who lives here in the LA area. There's a pen. I have not tested it yet. You might want to test it on piece of paper first. Oh, wait. Is there already a signature in there? From Mitchell. From Grandma and Grandpa. We can go maybe on another page.
Yeah, I'll go under my name.
And so, anyway, long story is, I bought it here in LA for $6, and it's worth far more than that. Okay, it's working. Good. Wonderful. And I brought it all the way back to LA now to get signed.
Oh, that's great. Would you like an inscription or anything?
Sure. Jared, Jared.
Jared.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Can I send one to a book plate for my co-host, Freddie? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
This is a Utini broadcast.